It's that time again. Welcome to the All Utah Hockey Podcast. I'm Petey, along with Craig Morgan. And make sure you get all of Craig's written content at the ALLCITYnetwork.com. Follow us on Twitter at all_Utah Hockey and subscribe to our YouTube at All Utah Hockey. And listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Petey. Craig, how are we doing today?
It's 9/11, buddy, so it's a tough day in this nation's history. Thinking about that, thinking about all the people that were impacted all that time ago. And, you know, you and I being in the hockey community 4 days ago was unfortunately, the anniversary of the Yaroslavl plane crash as well. So some tough times to remember, some people to remember. And yeah, just sending out thoughts to those who lost loved ones, and obviously an event that impacted our nation and then an event that impacted the hockey world.
Yeah, it's one of those things today. I'm actually not in our regular setting. I'm actually traveling today. So when I got my plane ticket and I saw September 11th on my plane ticket, it was a real sobering moment. I'm actually sitting in my dad's office in Bemidji, Minnesota. My dad passed a few years ago, but I am in Bemidji. They're honoring my dad, former coach, top 10 wins in the NCAA in college hockey at Bemidji State University. They've actually named the ice sheet after him. It's the Robert H. Petey Arena. And tomorrow they're honoring him with a bust of his likeness in the lobby of the arena. So I am in town in Bemidji, checking in with all the people here in Bemidji, get a talk in front of the mayor tomorrow, the mayor of Bemidji, Minnesota. Exciting stuff. So that's why I'm in a little unusual setting today. So just want to let everybody know right off the bat, I'm in Minnesota, but hockey did start in Utah today. Craig, what's going on in Utah?
Well, I mean, Tij Iginla was not on the ice today. What I was told, actually, Bill Armstrong told me it's just precautionary. I guess he had a minor injury. They're not, of course, saying what it is because this is a National Hockey League and we just say lower body, but I don't think it's anything significant. They're just being careful with him. But yeah, things are getting going, Petey. The Rookie Faceoff's going to start. Rookie Camp's going to start. Then we're going to roll right into training camp. It's amazing. It's all going to come quickly now.
Yeah, and it's funny though, because I think, and one of the things I want to make sure we hit home today, especially to the Utah hockey fans, is one, what this Rookie Faceoff is all about, and rookie camp, and having these rookies on the ice, and realistic expectations of some of the players that are there. And you brought up the big name is Tij Iginla, and he's a guy picked their top pick in the draft this year for the Utah Hockey Club. He's a guy with the pedigree. His famous dad, Jerome Iginla. And I just want to make sure people understand this isn't the NBA. You know, this isn't how things work in the NHL when you get drafted this high. Yes, there is Connor Bedard and there's Connor McDavid, and they jump right into the lineup. But most of the first round draft picks we're not going to see right now. So what are you thinking, and what are your thoughts on Tij Iginla? Even though he didn't skate, he's going to skate in this. He's going to play in these games. But where do you think Tij Iginla fits into this organization right now?
Well, right now he's just a prospect. He's one of their high-end prospects. He's going to go back to junior. We all already know that. Lee Stempniak has said that. So yeah, just furthering your point, drafting 17 and 18-year-old kids. These are not the draft age of the National Hockey League impacts where these guys are going next season. They're not fully mature. They're not men yet. They're not mentally mature. They're not physically mature. They've got a lot of growth in their games. So it's just the way the National Hockey League works, where you need more development time. The Rookie Faceoff, Rookie Camp, I look at this in many ways, Petey, as like orientation. It's
Sure.
just for these guys to get a feel for what the organization looks like, what they do, how they do things, get a feel for their future teammates. They're not even going to learn systems at the Rookie Faceoff or Rookie Camp. This is just go out and compete, play to your strengths, and we'll see you in a while.
Yeah, and a couple things. One thing I want to point out right away, because it's something we didn't have on last week's show, when we weren't live, like we're going to be on the rest of our shows, and we're able to communicate with you. And I want to say that Yay Hello said Tij told one of the beat writers it's hip tightness. So that was the word coming out from Yay Hello. So see how this works, Craig? This live interaction. That's how things work here with All City Network. It's interesting because from the coaching perspective, and for those who don't know, I was in the coaches room in the NHL for over 20 years. So I know I've been through these camps. I've been to these camps. I've been to the orientation days. And you hit it on the head. It's not about, oh my goodness, the system play. Like, hey, you didn't cover this guy down low in the defensive zone. No one cares. No one, first of all, you can't expect to learn a new system overnight. And secondly, you haven't played with these guys. You've never skated with these other guys ever. Today was the first time they hit the ice. You can't ramp that up in 48 hours and then go compete. I talked to Steve Potvin today, the head coach of the Tucson Roadrunners, and one of the things he said, it's we want to see how they play. We want to see if they have the skill level to play hockey, but it's how they approach everything. It's how they approach the things on ice, off ice. Are they at the meetings on time? Are they paying attention to the meetings? Where do they sit in the room? Are they first in drills? Are they last in drills? How do they compete in drills? Do they make mistakes in drills? Are they paying attention? And most importantly, like you've already mentioned, it's their compete level and how these kids compete over the next few days. Do they have that little extra that they're going to need to play at the highest level in the world? And so I think I don't want fans to focus too much on the rookie face-off and go, oh my gosh, this is the end all be all, because it's not. But you want these kids to come in here and compete. You want them to show what they have and be able to show up and show that there's something there for what comes next.
What's funny to me, having been a reporter for a long time, every time I cover one of these things, you get the fans saying, who did you like? I thought this guy looked great. I think he's going to be. None of that evaluation is happening here.
Buddy.
None of that evaluation is happening.
You know who does that, Craig? You know who does that? It's funny because I got the opportunity, and the NHL coaches staff, I'm sure they were very, when I talked to Potvin, he said, turn you in, the whole staff was there. They met with the staff today. They went through all the drills for today's practice. They're definitely involved.
Yeah.
But the NHL coaching staff is absolutely on the periphery of this. They've got their main guys coming in a week. They're worried about main camp. They've got their finger on the pulse of this. They'll probably watch the practice. But I know from my own experience when it was with Dave Tippett and Rick Tocchet, this was almost an afterthought. Like we'd fly in the second day, whatever day they played 2 games. Now they have 1 a day, but back then they'd play 2 in a day, and you'd try to see them play twice. And that guy was okay, or he was good, or like the coaches didn't. It's not fair to evaluate their hockey playing now. So I think the coaches want to evaluate, but you know who loved it? The scouts. Scouts go bananas. Like, oh, look at that, because they've been watching these kids literally for years. Like years, they've been watching these guys, and they're finally getting a chance to put on that NHL sweater, and the scouts get somebody excited. Like they're like, look at my guy, look at that guy, look at this guy.
Right there. Look at my guy, like they're kids. It's like they're talking about their kids, right?
It is. It's like watching dads at the youth hockey tournament. So that's honestly, and that's part of a big piece of this. It is to show, and Bill is really good about that. Bill's really behind the development process. And I think it's one thing we're going to talk about all season long is how he puts so much time, effort, money into development and into scouting. And I think that he rewards his scouts by showing, hey, this is the fruits of your labor, and enjoy it, take part in it, and embrace it. So I do think you're going to see a lot of the scouts that are involved with this that are going to be around for the next few days here at Utah when the team moves down to LA.
Yeah, and I want to read something that Lee Stepniak, the director of player development, said to me, since we're talking about development. Lee, when Lee was coming up through the league playing for one of, I think, 10 teams that he played for, he was close to setting the record for the most teams. And he was telling me, like, when I was in training camp, I didn't have a spot. That I was just trying to compete for a job. I was hoping to catch somebody's eye, and I stopped him for a minute. I was like, "Wait, Lee, you're gonna have to remind me which team that was, because you played for like a third of the National Hockey League's franchises." So it was in St. Louis. But he said, he earned a spot because Big Wall, Keith Tkachuk, got hurt like early in camp. So Lee turned some eyes, and he ended up making an NHL career right there. That was the genesis of it. But his point was, my message to the prospects is always just play your game.
Yep.
If you're a scorer, try out and try to go out and score goals. If you're good on the forecheck, or you're strong defensively, play to those strengths. The last thing that these guys, these scouts, these coaches, these, staff members and the development staff want to do is you don't want to watch a game and see them have no impact. You don't want to watch a game and walk away asking, did he do anything? Did he
What does
really
he
play?
do?
Was he even out there? Yeah.
Yeah, get
That's the
noticed. Get
worst thing
noticed.
you can do.
Do what you do and do it extremely well. And that's what I always told kids too coming into these camps is get noticed. And for some guys, they're not goal scorers. It's just go work hard, whether it's a physical play and you hit, or if you're a defender and you back check and do that extremely well. I want to point out something, Craig. There's another question in the chat. Sorry, new fan to Utah, Charles Conover. New fan. How do we rate this coach? Because we were talking about Andre Tournier on a scale of Woodcraft to Bruce Cassidy. Where does Andre Tournier? And I'll go first.
Wow.
This Utah Hockey Club is this guy. I said it on a show the other day that this guy potentially could be an Jack Adams Award nominee this season. I believe that. He builds teams through relationships. He builds through how he gets along with his players, and he builds a culture that everybody's in it together. I think. We talked about him getting poached to another team at one point before he locked up for a long-term deal here with Utah. I think he's an outstanding coach. I think he's very, very good.
Yeah, I agree with you on the relationship side too. That's where it all starts. You hear a lot about players, coaches, that term gets overused a lot. But when it's real because you talk to the players and you hear the way they talk about their coaches. I remember walking in to the ice den in Scottsdale, at the start of a season. Andre was there. Clayton Keller walked into the building, saw Andre, his face lit up, and he went over and gave him a hug. I don't see that happen a lot. And I'm not gonna single this out because we both love talk, but I didn't see people walking in hugging Rick Tocchet. He wasn't
not a lot of hugs. Maybe Phil Kessel, but not a lot of hugs with Rick Tocchet. Greg, back to the rookie tournament, and if people want to see the rosters, it's up on the Utah Hockey Club's website. So make sure you check it out if you want to see the roster. We just put it up on our screen if you're watching along on YouTube to see some of the names of players that are going to be here and what happens. This list has the top draft picks over the last few years, but to fill out a roster, you need guys on invites. You've got some PTO guys, some guys that are on player trial contracts. And those are the guys, hey, honestly, Craig, we've seen it. And one guy that's back here again is in Anson Thornton in the net. He's a guy that came on as a PTO player a few years ago, just as a tryout player. And now he's under contract by this hockey club in Utah. And he's going to be the guy that they're really going to watch this season to see how he has progressed. So it's not impossible for somebody to come in on a PTO and find their way. Hey, they're not going to play in Utah. Sorry. They're not going to be on the Utah big club. But this is an opportunity for somebody to sign a contract, whether it's in Tucson at the American League or even at the East Coast level. So there are guys that are going to find their way to other teams potentially, but be able to get contracts out of this. So don't just focus on those high draft pick names.
Yeah, I want to read a quote from Lee that we put out, I know, in one of the tweets promoting this show. But what Lee said is, historically, since I've been in this role, the best players at rookie tournaments have found a way to have a strong training camp and have tended to play some games in the NHL that season. I can think of some examples. Of course, they got Jack McBain after he had played a little bit of college, so he was a little older, but he came in and impressed. You talk about guys who don't necessarily score goals. He's a good example. Ben McCartney, you remember his first year? He really blew them away with his work ethic. This is a guy that you just envision being a fourth line workhorse for you down the road. Josh Doan was exceptional. And then there's a guy like sometimes, as Lee said too, guys can change your mind about what their path is. Not saying that they're necessarily going to alter where they end up playing that following season, because that's usually locked in. But a guy like Maximilian Szuber, they thought, okay, this guy's going to have to spend some time in Germany. And after he came over, the staff was saying, we need to get this kid to North America next year because his hockey IQ is so high. He's such a smart player on the ice, always in the right position. They saw a lot of things. So he ended up going to Tucson. There are possibilities, but just don't expect these guys to make the NHL roster this year.
But having said that, and bringing up Max Szuber is a great example. So Maximilian Szuber is a guy that it's on a faster track.
But he says last name?
Szuber.
Thank you.
Yeah, he was on. What's the movie? I forget. What's the movie?
Die Hard. It was Die Hard.
Yeah, He's one of the bad guys on Die Hard, I think. Maximilian Zuba.
Alan Rickman.
But Hans Zuba. So, but we talked about him, and he's a guy that impressed. And you saw this guy's going to play NHL games, and he now officially has. So when you look at this rookie camp roster, I think Maximilian Zuber is one of those guys that Utah fans can look and go, okay, here's a guy's name I need to know. I need to know Max Zuber. Now, Max Zuber is more than likely, barring any injuries in main camp, Maximilian Zuber is going to end up in Tucson. They've got 7 players on NHL contracts, max 8 or 9. Like, let's just real. Like, we're not the coaching staff. We don't make the depth chart, but he's 8 or 9. Is that fair, Craig? But he's also a guy that we should anticipate when something happens with the big club in Utah, that Maximilian Zuber is a guy that's going to play in the NHL this year. So as you're watching the games this weekend, make sure that you check out Maximilian Zuber, and he's number 55, Maximilian Zuber. So look out for big double nickels. Yeah, big guy, big physical guy.
Yeah.
And Watts is correcting me.
Like, that's the thing too. Like, people look at the size of this blue line and just like, oh, Bill Armstrong likes him big, and he does. He loves the reach on that back line. He loves the ability to defend more space. But if you look at the commonality between these guys, they can move. You can't play in the National Hockey League if you're not mobile anymore. You can't be one of those big pylons that we used to see when you and I were of NHL age.
Yeah, buddy. A different league then, different game. But let's continue on the path of these young defensemen, and another guy that could potentially see an NHL game or two this year is another guy. Didn't get a skate in last year's rookie faceoff. He was injured, and he was around, and what a wonderful kid. Great kid. And that's Maveric Lamoureaux. And he just didn't have the opportunity. He had some injury issues. He had some at the end of last season as well. He's come into this camp healthy. But the big thing, fans, again, to look for with Maverick Lamoureaux, he is 6'7". Dude can skate. To have 6'7", have that kind of reach with his stick, be able to defend like he defends, and be able to skate. I'm not sure where the ceiling is yet. He's too young. We don't know. This is going to be his first year pro this year down in Tucson. So we don't know. Like, I'm not going to put unrealistic expectations on him yet. But he is another guy that I would guess is going to see, you're going to see him in an NHL sweater this year. Wouldn't surprise me at all with Maverick Lamoureaux. Thoughts on his progression so far?
Yeah, they like everything they've seen so far. Unfortunately, he's dealt with some injuries that have slowed him a little bit, but they really like this player. They see top 4 potential here. I do think that's probably where he's going to end up, is like a second pair guy at some point, especially now that they have Sergachev locked up for a very long period of time. But Mav Lam is just one of those. You mentioned it, Petey, and I know we both connected with him at previous camps. He's just such a good kid. He's a fun kid. He's a happy kid. And I even thought, Petey, about maybe including the photo of his parents at the NHL draft, but I thought that was maybe one step too far.
No,
if you know, you know.
Too far over the line, Craig. Over the line. Although, if you don't know, you should and Google
check it out
at the draft. There's one other player I want to talk about, and somebody brought it up in the chat just now with some other players they're looking for, and one of them was Artem Duda. Again, that's another defenseman. I think this team is starting to get that depth in a very, very, very important position, and with Artem Duda in the back end. But the other defenseman, or the other player I wanted to talk about, and specifically with you, Craig, because you are a stickler when it comes to pronunciations. And now this next player, I've talked to people, and I do not have consensus on the pronunciation of his name. It's this year's first-round pick, centerman, plays in the Ontario League. I am going to let you tell me, because I on my phone call with Potsy today, the head coach of the Tucson Roars, Steve Potvin, he went French pronunciation.
Did he?
So
Beaudoin?
He said Beaudoin. So I want to know from what you're hearing, and we'll get clarification as we move along, because you know what Craig does. Craig actually asks the person, because that's probably the best way to find out how to say that. As of right now, today, what and how we're pronouncing this young man's name.
Well, the Utah Hockey Club right now is saying Cole Beaudoin. But
Cole Beaudoin.
Potts has a little French in him, and I appreciate that. And when you look at that name,
Beaudoin,
the name screams French, right? It's Beaudoin.
Yeah, because he's French. Potts is from Quebec.
Yeah.
Like Beaudoin. Yeah, and so here's the other thing, though, and Craig can attest to this, especially in young players. They're afraid to correct people when they get it wrong. And I'm not kidding. There have been players that played in this league that did not correct their pronunciation of their name until their second year playing. And that is true. And hopefully we get to the bottom of the Cole Beaudoin fiasco and name pronunciation soon.
Petey, we should tell people that we have a staff of pronunciation experts around the world.
We actually do.
Whatever the nation, we can turn to someone for proper pronunciations. In fact, when we were just absolutely butchering Czech and Slovak names, we had Radim Vrbata, former Coyote, on one of our show, pronouncing them all properly, and they sounded nothing like what we were saying.
No, we will do our best, and no promises, but we'll go nicknames. That's easy. But so for Cole Beaudoin or Beaudoin or Beaudoin or Beaudoin, we'll figure it out. I promise. But I tell you what, and here's what I want to see, because games do start this weekend. They're playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and this is the guy who's wearing number 24 at center ice position. It's an area that this franchise is sorely in need of talent. And we've talked about the center ice depth for the Utah Hockey Club, formerly the Arizona Coyotes, for years. And it's an area that they've been unable to address year after year after year. And this now in a first-round draft pick is a guy that over time may be a guy that can be a top 6 centerman for the season. And I'm not putting unrealistic expectations on this kid. I don't know. What I'm hearing is the kid's the real deal. What I heard from the coaching staff today is that when we talked about that hockey IQ, he's the guy sitting in the front of the room. He's the guy asking questions. He's the guy that works hard, 200-foot player. I don't think you're looking at the high-skilled point leader of his team. This is the guy that's going to play in all situations, more of a 200-foot player. What do you think about Cole Beaudoin?
Yeah, the talk is his compete level, right? He is not afraid of any confrontation, any area on the ice. He goes all out. He's a guy who backs his teammates. What I have heard from scouts and draft analysts is that this guy's a third-line center. That's his ceiling. Of course, when they drafted Connor Geekie, we had a bunch of people saying, I don't know about that draft pick. And then after he developed a little bit, they're like, oh, I can't believe they gave up Connor Geekie. He's going to be a stud. So that's the point with these 17 and 18-year-old kids. We don't know. We have to wait and see how they develop. They're really high on this kid. I want to bring up something, though, that I've heard from a few sources, haven't been able to get it confirmed from inside the Utah hockey franchise. When they moved up to get Cole Beaudoin, I'm going to go with the French pronunciation.
I like it too. For now,
everything sounds better in French. When they moved up to get him, I heard they were targeting a different player, and that player got taken, and then they went and got Cole Beaudoin. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm not saying they're unhappy. I hear he's a Bill Armstrong kind of player, without a doubt. He brings the kind of style that Bill Armstrong loves. Let's just wait and see how Cole develops. But I still think that this franchise, Petey, we've been saying it for 2+ decades, is short on center prospects. I still think this is an area they need to address.
Yeah, without question. And if you're going to win in this league, and I mean at the highest level, I mean compete for a Stanley Cup year after year, you have to have center depth, and you have to have those guys that are legit number 1 centers. You just do. And it's something that this franchise really, and we could go back to Jeremy Roenick. I mean, it's that long where you can go, hey, that they've had that kind of center depth. Just a couple other names, and I know that the rookie faceoff is something. Again, don't get concerned about the score. Don't get concerned about too much. You want to see your good players have good games. But some other names that Craig and I have been following for a very long time on this show. Look for Sam Lipkin is another guy that coming through the college ranks. Mikko Matika, which we like to say that dude from Denver, another guy that finally getting the opportunity to see him in this kind of a setting. We talked about Artem Duda already. Yeah. I'm curious to see how he translates from the college game to this. And one of the things you'll see in this first time around for some of these guys, the college guys specifically, because they cannot play on this until they're becoming pro because they're NCAA rights, and what am I trying to say there? Eligibility. The NCAA,
because we know that the NCAA, is always looking out for the best interests of players. Oh, that's a separate topip. Never mind.
There's no NIL money. Like, this is pro. You gave him a hotel room worth $50, and he's no, never. Another show. But you're right. Here's a guy you want to be able to see now. I think college prepares you for things like this because I think college teams practice extremely well. I think they learn systems very well. So I think they translate better to a short tournament format like this. But again, the speed that they're going to have to play at this weekend, you're going to see guys going, oh my. Like there's that oh my moment of this is fast. There's some really good players. Everybody's playing at that level. And I do think that the Rookie Faceoff is one of those opportunities where guys go, oh my goodness, I've got stuff to work on. Like I especially the guys that are going back to junior. And there are a lot of guys on this list that are going to go back to junior and go, oh my goodness, there's some stuff I got to work on because I not only do I see what's happening this weekend, wait till next week. And they're doing it in the room. They're in the training room with Lawson Krause and Liam O'Brien and Sergey Sergachev. You get in the locker room with those guys. Go, I got a long way to go, and I think that's one of the biggest purposes of this Rookie Faceoff. I think it's to go, oh my, I'm the big man on campus wherever I played, whether it was college or junior, and I come here and I go, like these guys are men that are fighting for their jobs to feed their family. I got stuff to work on. So I do think that's another aspect of this rookie tournament that they need to work on. But we'll get back to more. We're going to talk about where you can watch and how to watch right after we get a chance to take a quick break so I can talk about our friends at FOCO. FOCO is a leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise with a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more. It's the best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms, whether it's hoodies, jackets, beachwear, or even Craig's favorite, the overalls. There is something for fans for almost every occasion. Get all of your Utah Jazz and Utah Utes collectibles and merch right now. We're still waiting for some more Utah Hockey Club stuff, but hang in there. It's coming. FOCO always has our back for sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by visiting www.foco.com. By the way, Craig, I don't need to say www. because most people don't understand the internet now. I know. I'm old, and sometimes I forget. But you use code ALLCITY10 for all non-presale items, and use that promo code ALLCITY10 for 10% off your entire purchase at FOCO.com. And then Rugged Road, because if you know one thing about Craig and I, we are the rugged outdoor type. That's Craig and I. I go camping, fishing, mountain climbing, canoeing. That's Craig and I. Rugged Road is dedicated to creating durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. Whether you're on land or water, Rugged Road gear is built to accompany you on every adventure. Their Rugged Road coolers are designed to always float upright so you never lose a drink. Their coolers are incredibly light, making them easy to transport on any trip. They're guaranteed to keep your contents cool for up to 7 days. Great for everything from fishing to tubing to camping, and this one Craig and I can do is tailgating. Those coolers are designed to meet the needs of every outdoor and sports enthusiast. So gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road coolers, reliable, durable, and built to be used. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use ALLCITY for 10% off. Okay, Craig, I did talk about it because I think people are interested in seeing this Utah Hockey Club for the first time and competing for the first time in those beautiful sweaters. So we wanted to put up the information on when and where you can watch them. Their first game is this Friday, September 13th against the San Jose Shark Rookies at 2 p.m. Mountain Time in Utah. Saturday, they play the Los Angeles Kings at 8 p.m. Mountain Time. And on Monday, they play the Vegas Golden Knights at 1:30 on their getaway game, 1:30 in the afternoon. You can go to the UtahHockeyClub.com where all of those games will be streamed, and you can get the first look of this hockey club. And I'm so excited about that. Craig, we talked about let's go to it. Let's go to the uniforms. Okay. We're going to jump around a little bit. Let's go to uniforms. I talked about your first chance to see these uniforms up close and personal. We saw the reveal with Josh Doan at the rookie event with the NHL. So let's take a look at the Utah jersey. What do you think? They are on the screen right now if you're watching on YouTube. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any of this content, by the way. What do you think? Black, light blue, and white.
I solicited a lot of opinions from the All-City folks, and I could read some of those in a minute, but I want to go back to that photo of Lawson Krause and Mikhail Sergachev and Clayton Keller for a moment, just to point out they kind of did Clayton Keller dirty here.
Didn't he? Like, is he the kid that gets to stand on the
Whose
blue
little
line for the
brother is
national
that?
anthem?
Come
Yeah,
on. Put him next to
he's like,
Croucher and Sergachev.
here, kid, you get to stand with us by the blue line. It's like that youth hockey kid that skates around with the flag and
Oh,
plants it in center
God.
ice. Poor killer. Like, give him a box or something to stand on, or just rearrange the pose or something so he doesn't look so tiny. I tell you what, Sergachev and Kraus look mean though, don't they?
Yeah, they
Wow.
do. That's a good shot,
Yeah.
actually. I liked it. Let me get what are your thoughts on these uniforms, first of all?
Well, first, we're going to come up with something. There's a term that people that are new to this show need to know. And this is an education. This goes way back to early days in the Coyotes locker room. It is the term HK. And I know I've got it. Like, we've got new people listening. We've got Duncan from Idaho, and we've got people that I know haven't listened. So we got to teach them. Part of the vernacular on this show is going to be HK, and HK means who cares. So I understand you don't spell who cares with NHK. It's a WC. Get it. But in the Coyote locker room back in the late 90s, our medical guy would like to be able to say to management or coaches, who cares? Like, when they come in and ask a stupid question, he would want to say who cares, but he can't. So the underlings, us, the equipment guys, myself, and we came up with HK. So you could say it, oh, HK. And they're like, what? And they didn't know what we were doing. So we're talking behind their back. So when you hear HK on the show, it means who cares. And my thought on jerseys, as a rule, unless they're extremely, extremely good or extremely, extremely bad, I really don't care. So these jerseys, to me, they're fine. They're good. I like the colors. I like the powder blue. I'm not gonna lie. They're fine. It's Utah. It's 4 letters. It's like they will get more creative, I'm assuming,
That's the
when
thing,
they have a
right?
mascot.
It's not even fair to judge them right now. These are like placeholders for a year. And as placeholders go, they're fine. In fact, they're clean. And I like clean looks personally. I don't
I do
like
too.
blinged out. Maybe I'm an old guy, but I don't like too
I'm
much.
with
I
you.
don't like busy on a jersey. So I think these are fine. But yeah, the key point here, one of 2 key points that I want to make is these are a temporary jersey. And then things tend to grow on you. Remember when the Coyotes introduced the Desert Knights and we were all like, what are those? And then they stepped
Yeah.
onto the ice and we're like, oh, those look really good in person. I want to go all the way back. And I sent to Emma this. I think you've got this, Emma, our great producer, to the Kachinas when they were first introduced. By now, I think everybody agrees that the Kachinas, one of the best logos ever created. Everybody thinks those uniforms are fire. Remember what they thought about them when they came out, Petey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Took a
Emma,
lot
do
of
we
heat.
have that quote graphic from Shane Doan talking about okay. You always hear people talk about those traditional logos, and then we came out with this multicolored abstract thing. Some people didn't even know what it was supposed to be. Yeah, there were a lot of people who were like, that is the ugliest jersey ever. These uniforms are horrible. There was a lot of hatred for those in the market and in the NHL. And now look what happened. The
Yeah, and
Kachinas are revered. Go ahead.
I think, and maybe I'm biased, I do think that that's one of the best jerseys in sports. I really do. I think because it's so, it belongs in the city in which it came from, and I think that's important to say where you're from, and it shows, it screams Arizona. I think the Utah, what I like best about the Utah jerseys is I hearken back to the original 6, and when we talk about clean looks, like the Detroit Red Wings, that's clean. The original Toronto Maple Leafs, Montreal Canadiens, Boston Bruins, like, they're just clean. They don't overdo it with excessive stripes and shoulder yokes and funny, the funny slanted stripes. There's too much of that. Too much. I think it's clean. I really like it. I will say this: I don't see colors extremely well. And my wife will tell you that as we picked out bathroom paint color, and I was, well, big surprise, I was wrong. But I thought those jerseys were navy blue and powder blue, but I was incorrect. That is actually black. And so I
Yeah.
think they're sharp. I do. I think they're sharp, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they come across on TV and seeing what they look like. There's one of the things that I know Wayne Gretzky, when he coached in Arizona, when this franchise, you go back to when they switched from the Kachina to the red and white for the first time, the Howling Head, he did several different variations of the uniform, different socks, different jerseys, but he always made somebody put the whole gear on and skate around, and they'd film it. because he said it's important how it looks on TV, not how we look at it in the locker room, standing there doing nothing. He said, I want to see it on TV. I want to see how it moves. And honestly, the number of variations and iterations changed over time to it became what you ended up seeing, which was a very clean look. And I think this Utah uniform does the same. I think it's a clean look, and I give it a big thumbs up.
Okay. I want to read some of the comments here. So you can send shade their way. You can find them on Twitter. All the folks that represent the All-City hockey in various markets.
Oh, no. Did you reach out?
I did. This is Charlie O'Connor with PHLY Philadelphia. Charlie and I work together at the Athletic. I like the colors, but it's just so boring. ...
Wow.
Okay. Charlie, apparently not a clean look guy. Here's our own Sean DePaz, who just met me in Buffalo, by the way. I love them so much. Blue is so nice, and the white jerseys really pop. His colleague, of course, at What Chaos, Pete Blackburn, just says that they've arrived at they're fine. Pete wants to add purple to these. I'm not sure about that. I really am not sure.
No.
But here's what Sean said about this is his producer saying he thinks they're boring and that something being clean is just a synonym for being boring. So I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's fair. There's no right answer in passion, right?
But if you put up UHC, I'm trying to think what else they can do, because they don't have a nickname, so you can't put a logo on because they don't have a nickname or logo. So you have to do something with their name. And if you put UHC, to me, UHC is a university. It just screams that's a university name, the University of whatever. But it just UHC doesn't work. So I think it has to be Utah. I think they did the exact right thing with what they were given.
Here's DJ Bean, also of the What Chaos show, the educated one in the group here. In meetings for a bit here, Craig, but the patch is great, and it feels very familiar without being derivative.
What? Do I need a thesaurus to look that up? That's for what?
Yeah,
it's
derivative. I didn't know what DJ meant, but I thanked him nonetheless.
Yeah.
AJ Haefele with DNVR, safe, boring, classic hockey aesthetic.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot
AJ's a straight shooter in Denver.
What's that?
AJ's a straight shooter in Denver, though. He's going to tell you what he thinks.
Yep. And listen, I think most of the CHGO guys sort of agree that they're safe, they're fine. I think everyone by and large agrees that these are, let's see what comes next, right? Look, I also want to point out the NHL put Utah in a really, really tough situation here.
Yeah.
They figure out the arena, figure out the practice arena, figure out the jerseys, figure out all your marketing, figure out all this stuff. And oh, by the way, you don't have much time because we really want to get this team the heck out of Alex Morello's hands. So keep that in mind as well. Take this all with a grain of salt and give them props for managing to get some things done in this crazy window that they were handed. And let's see what comes along with another year of time when they've had some time to invest and really what the look of this franchise is going to be, not only in the uniforms, but in the facilities, which I know we're going to talk about here shortly.
Yeah, but Craig, you bring up a good point. In the last expansion franchise in the National Hockey League, and I know this one's a little different, but still an expansion franchise nonetheless, you go to Seattle, and Seattle had a year and a half to plan and prepare and hire a staff and build buildings and design jerseys and come up with nicknames. A year and a half. And let me tell you this, they were hammering nails until right up to the first game. I mean, things just barely got, because you've talked to people in management there. Like, it was a year and a half, didn't seem like enough time for them up in Seattle. So you look at what's been going on in Utah, and we're talking 4 months. Like, are you kidding me? To do everything, to hire the people they've done, to build in construction they have, to build a roster and a team and hire staff in 4 months? Like, are you out of your mind? When this thing started, the oval was Olympic-sized sheet of ice. The rookies skated today on a standard sheet of ice. That happened in 4 months. It's just amazing. We talk about facilities because I think it's important. So when we talk about the facilities, one of the knocks on this franchise when this team was the Arizona Coyotes is they were playing in substandard facilities. And we talked about what they were doing at their practice arena, what they were doing at the game arena, at the mullet. They never had what was considered NHL facilities and NHL standard weight room, locker room facilities. Not the case in Utah. And I've got to credit Ryan Smith and his ownership group right away, and Chris Armstrong and what they have done. Because when you talk to the people, and what Craig and I know, the guys like the equipment managers and the guys that are boots on the ground getting stuff done, if they need something, to make it right, they ask for it and they get it. It's not a pulling strings. It's not 4 levels of accounting. It's not, do you need it? Get it. Because they want this to be a great NHL experience for the players. The players are looking around going, oh my gosh. So the Oval, where this is where the rookies are playing right now. You've got the big oval for those Olympic training speed skaters on the outside. It's a little different, but you got the 2 sheets on the inside. So the sheets are done, but the locker room facilities there, it's their temporary home. It's their temporary home until they get their main practice rink built, which is a year away. And it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be one of the best in the NHL once it's complete. But this locker room, I checked in today. I got an update today. They're done. They're done. The NHL players have moved their gear into there. They're actually using those facilities at the Oval. The rookies, however, don't. And it's not because they're not ready. It's because they're rookies. And so the rookies are in the public rooms at the Oval, and that's just how it is. You've got to earn your way into the NHL room. So the rooms are ready. The guys have their gear hanging in there now, and they will start their training camp in a week with the big club. So that's exciting. They are on track right now with their practice facility a year away, and everything I'm hearing about the Delta Center, the locker rooms inside Delta Center, they are working incredibly hard because there is a preseason game scheduled in that building, and it needs to be complete by the end of September. That not only is it on track and everything's going to be done, but we have not had the opportunity to get a tour yet, Craig. We're going to, hopefully, but I'm hearing it's phenomenal. Like, people are in awe of what this group has been able to put together in such a short time at the Delta Center. So I think when you look at players that had a tough time in Arizona for what they had for facilities, are shocked at what this has come to in a short 4 months. So I tell you what, as a player, you just want to see them trying to make an ownership going, hey, we're trying to win. Like, and if you need this, you need that, you need extra training tables, you need an extra hot tub, cold tub, whatever it is that you need to be a better hockey player here. And let's give it to you. And so I think, I really do believe that this group, who is already a tight-knit group, those things matter. It makes a difference. So I'm curious to see how they come out of the gate having this kind of attention paid to them by our ownership group.
Yeah, and it's something that they deserve after all the things they dealt with here. And listen, people can look at this and say, look, they're playing in fine facilities. Let's not worry too much about pampering the players. This matters. This matters a lot. Listen, you need the right facilities to develop guys, right? You need the right facilities to attract free agents. Word gets around the league when your organization goes cheap. But I don't think that this ownership group is ever going to have that sort of rap like ownership groups had here. Petey, do you think that if the players, for example, maybe wanted a bunch of pizzas ordered and delivered, do you think anybody would balk at paying for those pizzas?
First of all, if you know, but if the players needed to rejuvenate themselves in a playoff atmosphere between third period and overtime, do you think?
Let's call it a bubble. Let's call it a bubble. Okay,
let's call it a bubble. If they were in a bubble, perchance, do you think that there would be several hoops to jump through to get $250 worth of pizza? My goodness, I'm going to go out on a big limb here that the Utah Hockey Club would not have a problem buying pizzas in that situation. I'm guessing, just perchance, if that were ever to arise, if that hypothetical situation were ever to arise anywhere in the hockey universe, I don't think this Utah Hockey Club would have to go far to find themselves some pizza. By the way, pizza is something. Going back to, I'm in Bemidji, Minnesota, and if you ever go to Bemidji, Minnesota, but why would you? Dave's Pizza, right on the corner of Irvin and Fifth Avenue. Like, I will be, not kidding, I will be going to Dave's. No free ads, I know, but my buddy owns the place, so I throw it out there for all the people visiting. Hopefully he sees this and gets me a free pizza tonight. We've spent so much time talking about young players and the rookie tournament, Craig, and what to expect, and the scouts, their thoughts, and development scouts. But I want to talk about some of the young players that are playing for Utah and what they have had to go through and had the opportunity to play in this rookie tournament over the last few seasons. And now they're young guns in the National Hockey League. And first of all, do we think that development path helped them? But there's 3 players that I think that fans really need to know when I talk about the current young guns of this Utah Hockey Club. And it's Josh Doan, Dylan Guenther, and Logan Cooley. now coming into their own, I think, in this league. What do you, from the outside right now, before they even hit the ice, a week away from these guys who are no longer rookies, no longer participating in this tournament, but very, very young players? And to be honest, Josh hasn't completely earned his way onto this thing yet. And Bill even said that when we interviewed him. What are your thoughts about these young guns that are on this current Utah roster?
Well, first of all, I hope people go to ALLCITYnetwork.com and read my story on Josh Doan, because I talk just about that, about him having to earn his path still. And as you know, Steve Potvin coached him way back in youth hockey. He's known him for a while, and that's been the message from all the advisors. Not that Josh even needs to hear it. Josh is so mature and understands, because of who his dad is, the entire process. He doesn't need someone telling him, hey, you still need to earn it just because you had an incredible 11-game cameo, just because you scored 2 goals in your NHL debut when your dad was just telling you, get the puck out and get pucks deep. That doesn't mean you've earned a spot in the National Hockey League. He knows that. He's committed himself. He's got the body to go along with that mind now, but he understands, look, there's still very, very few roster spots available. And maybe he needs a little more development in Tucson. If that ends up happening, I don't think he's going to be the type of guy who's going to be angry or pout. He might be angry, but he'll use it the way that another guy that we're going to talk about used it when he got sent back to go play in the World Juniors or go back to the WHL or go down to Tucson. Dylan Guenther, he was mad every step of the way. I talked to him, but Dylan never pouted. He never pouted. He used it as fuel. Use that anger, that frustration as fuel to get better. We saw it last season with Dylan Guenther. When he got sent down and then came back up later in the season, he was not the same player. By the time he arrived in the NHL and stuck, we all said, this is a National Hockey League player. I love this kid's attitude. I love his shot. I think he's going to be a pure goal scorer in this league. And I really hope that we get a chance to watch him play again alongside Logan Cooley for a very long time. Logan was up and down a little bit. We heard Bill say when we had Bill on the podcast last week that probably the only one unhappy with Logan's season was Logan, because he has such high expectations for himself. I mean, he told me at the beginning of last season he wanted to win the Calder Trophy, ended up finished 5th in voting. But there were times where I thought he struggled a little bit. There were times where Andre Tourigny cut his ice time a little bit. But unlike those other two guys, Logan Cooley was not a guy that spent any time in the AHL. They dumped him into the NHL, partly because they got him here early, and that was probably part of the agreement, but partly because the coaching staff genuinely felt that he was good enough where he could play in the NHL and they could work him along to the point where he could become an effective player. What I'm looking for from him this season is, I want a breakout season from Logan Cooley. This is the time where he starts to show you, oh yeah, this guy is a top 6 center, and boy, do they need one. He needs to live up to that potential. I definitely think he has the drive and skills to do it.
Yeah, and it's funny, and that's one of the reasons I want to mention these 3 young players too. One, it's to put the comparison to what you're seeing now. When we talked about Tij Iginla and Beaudoin, is they just got drafted. The guys that we're talking about now that are still the young players on this team were drafted in 2021 and 2022. Yeah. So we're talking 2 and 3 years removed, and they're finally becoming players in this league. So I want the Utah fans to understand that Tij Iginla is in the future, but the future might not be next year. It might not be the year after, but the year after that is when you start going, okay. And that's one thing when you're following hockey, especially hockey for the first time, it's you got to hang in there with these prospects. And that's why we're going to keep reminding you of these names year after year, because we want you to see how long this path takes. So we're talking about that with these players, but I want to say, like, with Doan, outstanding, but you're right. There aren't a lot of spots on this roster. And he's going to have to bring it. He will. Like, he competes. He's going to bring it. But Logan Cooley, at moments last year, in brief moments, you saw an outstanding hockey player. And through the grapevine, Craig and I have heard his summer has been outstanding. And he has put on a little size, and he's worked incredibly hard. And I think this kid, he's got the toolbox. He's got the skill level. And the one thing he's got is that little chip on his shoulder compete, that when he finds that and that little grumpiness, you go, oh my. Like, you can't believe a little guy like that. And he's a smaller player, but when a little guy finds that, you're like, uh-oh. Like, this kid's going to be special. He really, really is going to be a special high-end skilled player. Logan Cooley is going to be a top 6 forward in this league for a very long time. Different than what Dylan Guenther brings. Dylan Guenther, to me, is becoming a more complete player because of
Mhm.
his journey and his path. And he's the quiet, confident leader type. I've said this before on this show, and Craig is hard on me. I go back to early Kane and Taves are Cooley Guenther. I see so many similarities in Kane being Cooley, the flashy, the guy that's going to put up the points, the USA American kid, that the little flashy guy, and then you've got Guenther and Taves who play the game the right way, compete incredibly hard, really good hockey players, but they're the Canadian quiet leader of their group. So I find that this tandem, I'm really excited to see them grow this season specifically, to see what direction this goes. Hey, there is no doubt in my mind Dylan Guenther could wear a letter in the National Hockey League someday. It's not going to be now. He's not ready. It's not his time. But I could definitely see him with a letter on his jersey at someday.
Minor aside here, just when you're talking about those two guys, as a coach, I want you to explain this because I know a lot of coaches think in these terms. People will wonder, well, who's the third guy on that line? That guy could be interchangeable over the years. When coaches construct lines, they often think more in terms of twos than in terms of threes. Explain that to people.
Yeah, especially in this time of year. And when you get ready for camps, there are very few lines. You go to teams like the Boston Bruins where they've got a line that's established year after year. Okay, you know what their top line is going
Marchand,
to be.
Bergeron, yeah.
Yeah, so you get those kind of matchups. You do that, but when you're building a roster, you look for two guys that are interchangeable. That's your core of that line. That you look for pairs and you look at tandems. And part of the reason you do that is because you look at your special teams and how the special teams are taken care of. Because those guys are going to have to be on. You can put them together on a penalty group. You put a third line group together of that pair. They're going to be our first guys over the boards on the penalty kill. And then you, on the top six forwards, you got those tandems, those pairs of players that they're going to be the guys that help drive the power play. So you always look at that tandem. And on this hockey club, you look at the top tandem. You look at Schmaltz and Keller. That's a tandem. That's a tandem. And you saw over the last few years how many interchangeable centermen that tandem has had. And I think Michelli and Krause were kind of that same thing where you had that interchangeable thing. So I do think you're going to see, I hope we get an opportunity to see some of these young kids play together. I thinking of Guenther and Cooley on a path together, to me, really excites me. And it's something that, wow, you could build on for the future. The issue again, Craig, becomes where's that middle ice for this club, and where is that going to fit out? We've got nice center icemen. You know, Nick Bukestad, one of my favorite Minnesotans up the middle, and Barrett Hayton's got a lot to prove coming off an injury. But the center ice position for this team is going to be where they're really going to have to find themselves.
Yep, agreed completely.
Oh, Craig, I do have to. We are rounding out the rookie talk. Is there anything else you want to touch on regarding the rookies, specifically this weekend and the rookie tournament?
I think we've covered just about all of it. I'm glad we were able to get insights from Lee and from Potts, because I think, and not that it's going to stop people from overreacting to what they see out there,
Right.
but it's just hold on here. Again, this is just like orientation and really nothing more. They want to see the guys compete. They want to see them play to their strengths, but just don't try not to take too many evaluations or impressions away from the rookie tournament, because honestly, the coaches aren't. They really aren't.
Yeah.
It's just broad brushstrokes at this point. One guy, though, you mentioned him before. I'm really excited to see how he does in this setting and then down in Tucson, is Artem Duda, because his journey has just been so crazy. It's unbelievable, but he stayed dedicated to the game when he thought he was going to play college hockey in Maine. Then he had to go up and play university hockey in Canada. And now he's going to be in Tucson. I don't know what this kid's ceiling is yet. I don't think the organization knows. What I do know is, man, is he a fluid skater and he can handle the puck. You can use guys like that in the National Hockey League. So let's see him develop under Steve Potvin, John Slaney, and the Tucson staff.
Yeah, I completely agree that I want to make sure that's my lasting thought on this with the rookie tournament. As a Utah hockey fan, enjoy seeing your team on the ice for the first time wearing their new sweaters, competing against another jersey from another team in the National Hockey League. Enjoy that, embrace it.
Tournament, by the way. 10
yeah,
teams. I love it.
It has grown so much, and it's all that Western hockey. I really do like it, but again, set the expectations low. Wins and losses don't really matter. So don't get hung up on the scores of the game, because these teams haven't worked on special teams yet. They haven't worked on power play and penalty kill. They don't work on systems. This is every man for himself. It's going to be scattered hockey. So don't worry about it too much. Just embrace that your team is now finally getting to the ice. And I agree with Chris. Hit that like button. If you're here, please hit the like button. It helps us to everything we do here. Make sure you hit the like button. And Duncan from Idaho was a little late. Duncan, well, I will say that from Idaho. By the way, Craig, do you know I lived in Idaho for a while? Southeastern Idaho? I did. Stories for other days. Yeah. Pocatello. Yeah, Pocatello.
Pocatello, really?
Yeah, I lived in Pocatello for a year. Played senior men's hockey there for a year or two while I was working. So just throwing that out there. But he's talking about the Tij Iginla injury. It doesn't look like anything serious. Still anticipate that he is going to get action this weekend. We'll follow that as it goes. Make sure you stay tuned to Craig at Craig S. Morgan on Twitter for all the latest news on what's happening with Tij Iginla and what his prognosis is for the upcoming days. Just enjoy it. This is the first taste that you have of a hockey club that is finally your own. And just enjoy it. And don't worry if they win, lose, draw. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's that this team's first step in a journey starts this weekend. So tune in again to the UtahHockeyClub.com. The games, you can find their schedule, you can find their rosters, they're all there. But more importantly, you can find everything that Craig has written about the Utah Hockey Club. And we talked about that Josh Doan story and getting to know Josh. By the way, his new series is Getting to Know Utah series. Clever. Something you thought about that one after a few cocktails. No, it was really good, Craig. Getting to Know Utah series with Josh Doan. Make sure you jump over to check out all of Craig's written content at ALLCITYNetwork.com. And make sure, as we're starting to get this show going, it's really important for us that you follow us on Twitter at @all_Utah Hockey. Follow Craig at Craig S. Morgan. Follow myself at S. Peters Hockey and this YouTube channel. We're going to have other content than just our live shows. We're going to have interviews. We're going to have game breakdowns. We're going to have other content. And so you don't miss any of that content, please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at All Utah Hockey and listen to us wherever you get your podcast. For Craig Morgan, I'm Petey. And until next time, we'll see you at the rink.
We all silly like the mayor.